I'm Keith Thiessen, and we're going to build a reclaimed modern table. So for this video, I'm mainly going to talk about why I did what I did and a little bit behind the scenes. If you want more in-depth information about the process, then check out the links that I'll have in each section to a separate video for each part of the build. So the table's made out of this old cabinet wardrobe I found in my old shop when I moved into the house I used to live in. I didn't even know this cabinet was made of solid walnut until I started taking it apart and cutting it up. Obviously not every reclaimed find is going to be solid walnut, but you know, this one was, so yeah. The table was made for a client based on an old design for a different client that I really wanted to make out of hardwood instead of the reclaimed cedar that I used the first time around. My goal was to make a mid-century form, but with the texture and the general aesthetics of a reclaimed table that you normally get, hence this chevron inlay pattern that I was doing and also the leather strip that I will be putting down the middle later in the video. And again, for more specific step-by-step information about what I'm doing, there will be links down in the description and also in the video itself, so, you know, take a look at those. I did lose a little bit of the footage of me cutting these parallelogram inlay pieces out of longer rectangular strips, but, you know, you can just imagine me on the chop saw, slaving away, making perfectly angled cuts. There. So yeah, pro tip, packing tape makes it so you don't glue your wooden piece to your wooden benchtop when you're doing a little glue up like this. So the leather piece I'm about to lay down on this glue up is a drive belt from an old machine shop. Large, old, heavy machinery, the big old cast iron types with the pulleys and wheels on it, was run by these belts attached to a motor. And I had one of these 30-pound lead bricks thanks to my friend Doc. He gave it to me as a gift. It's a really weird gift, but hey, it came in handy. So I had to do this glue up every night about 8 inches at a time. So the legs here and the apron part are going to be made out of this beautiful white oak that I found at an estate sale cleanout that my friend tipped me off to. One of the good parts about being a reclaimer is that eventually people in your city start to know that you do this sort of thing. They see you in dumpsters around town, you know, stopping at the side of the road to pick up pallets and generally other embarrassing situations, and they say, "What's that all about?" And then you say, "I'm a reclaimer. I make things out of garbage." And then they'll say, "Oh, that's cool. I have garbage, actually." And then you'll say, "Is it good garbage?" And they always say, yes, it's good garbage because they want to get rid of their garbage. And you have to get good at kind of seeing if the garbage is good or not. And then when you find the good garbage, like this white oak, you can make a really nice table out of it. So this is the real woodworking portion of the video where I do hand cut mortise and tenons. And by hand cut, I mean I use my hands to make machines do the cutting for me. But then, to save my reputation as a woodworker, I gotta bust out the mallet and chisel and go all 1800 style on this bad boy. How very artisanal. And this may seem obvious, but you know, always dry fit before you glue it up because glue can be fairly permanent on a mortise and tenon joint, and you really don't want to have to rip this thing down and recut everything, especially if you found just enough reclaimed white oak to make the table in the first place. So the apron's coming together, tap 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 with the mallet. I've got some dowels here for alignment, and you'll see in a minute that I'll strengthen these joints by drilling all the way through the leg and into the apron's end, and putting some longer dowels in there as well. Right after, I make sure everything's nice and square. Make sure your drill bits are sharp because white oak does not smell great when it's burning. And you're watching a woodworking video, so I assume you kind of can guess what I'm doing here. Also, I just explained it about 10 seconds ago. So this is the point in the video now where I stop using mortise and tenon and traditional joinery and just start using pre-drilled holes and screws. The screws provide a little bit of natural mechanical slack so that wood movement the way these are going to be attached won't be too much of an issue for me. Also, I'm not like a joinery super genius, and I don't want to spend the next 3 months trying to figure out how to do compound, angle, mortise and tenon, slot, whatever magic unicorn nonsense there would have to be in order to get this to work. And don't forget to sigh heavily after each step, because it makes it seem like a lot more work than you're doing. So if we're gluing up tabletops like this, especially this wide, you really want to have a dead flat surface to work with so that everything lines up perfectly and you don't have any problems. I don't have any of that, but I do have a belt sander. More on that later. Ah, the sound of well-maintained, perfectly functioning clamps. And time to put on the other side, but first I gotta flatten the edge because I haven't used a hand plane in a video in a while and I want you to be impressed. I was expecting the sides of the cabinet to be plywood or pine or something, but they were actually solid walnut as well, which was really fortunate for me. And here we have the poor man's track saw. Angle iron, clamps, and a circular saw. Sure as hell does the job, though. Now, this hunk of walnut is from the frame of the frame and panel door that made up the front of the wardrobe. My tools sound awesome. So this is the part of the video where some people are already typing up comments about my hands being too close to the blade and blah blah blah, and let me tell you something, it is camera angles almost 100%. I respect the hell out of this tool, and I keep my hands as far from the blade as I can while still maintaining control. If you watch only one of the linked process detail videos for this project, I urge you to make it this one. There's a lot of good tips and a lot of good learning on how to make the breadboard ends of a table like this work for you, and I really think that it's got something everybody can enjoy. I really can't extol the benefits of a really nice steel framing square enough. They come in such handy when building large furniture products, getting everything square, being guides for the router. Just, if you see one at a flea market or something, even if it's rusty, pick it up, make sure it's square, go home, clean it off. It's going to cost you what, like $8-9 tops? Ooh, look, hand tools. I must know what I'm doing. Also, the combination square. Can't tell you enough about how awesome it is. Speed squares are good, but a good framing square and a good combination square are going to get you real far if you're building a table like this. In my opinion, for most work, and even most fine work, contractor grade tools will do you just fine. Cheap power tools, affordable tools are great. However, when it comes to measuring, setup, and layout implements, you want quality. And you don't have to spend a ton to get quality. You can find really high quality gear, especially this sort of thing, at estate sales, flea markets, antique stores, even some garage sales if you know where to look. Also, your woodworking hand tools. Your hand planes, your dovetail saws, your cross-cut and panel saws, all that kind of stuff. You can find them, and if you learn how to sharpen them up and set them up, then you'll be set for life. You will never need to worry about if you're going to have the right tool for the job, because you can go to a flea market, you can go on eBay, you can find a crappy one that has all the parts, and you can fix it up to work just great for you. So now that I've ranted about quality and flea markets and affordability, we can watch me screw up a very simple process. So I had to double check all my measurements and alignments and made sure everything was right before I just plowed ahead and tried to get this breadboard end on the table. Then this would not have happened. So a minor bit of tragedy. So what happened was the drawer bore pins were a little too out of line with the inside peg holes, and it forced a split here. And I tried to repair, but it wasn't really worth it. It wouldn't work. Forced a split on the bottom of the breadboard, which lodged the pin inside, and I need that to be strong, so it was basically scrap. So I had to break it to get it off. I really can't mess anything else up. So, to have a day's work in the can, I gotta go back and do this all over again. Hooray! But, you know, you mess up, you get right back on that horse and you keep on riding. Especially if someone's paying you a lot of money to ride that horse. So you see this breadboard end has a weathered edge there, and that's because it is the last bit of walnut I had for this project. Like, cannot screw up under penalty of having to go and buy walnut that will not look as good or match at all and ruin the whole thing. Just terror right now as I'm doing every piece of work to the end of this table. And there's my flea market block plane, because I do the things I talk about. After sanding everything flush and getting all the grime and polish and wax and finish off of it, this is what I ended up with. So this is some salvaged angle steel that I found in the back of a bowling alley that was closing down. And I bought it for a good price. The guy selling it wanted me to pay a bad price, and I said, no, I'd like a good price. And he said, well, how about a slightly less bad price? And I said, no, I'm still pretty sure I want a good price. And because he didn't even know what the hell it was, I got it for a good price. And I don't usually pay for stuff, but I guess my neighbors were all really happy with their bed frames, so there's not a lot of angle steel floating around on garbage day in my neighborhood. So my design called for these little scoops at the end of the legs where the apron kind of rises up to meet the underside of the table in a nice mid-century-ish kind of fashion. And it's really straightforward. You can see everything I'm doing. I'm hesitant to find anything to actually explain right now, so I guess I'll just stop talking for a sec. I get to talk about the finish. The top of the table is this really nice walnut, which is going to turn rich brown when I finish it, and the white oak on the bottom, it was a little light, and I thought because it would be in the shadows of the table and it would have chairs in front of it, it should kind of fade away texturally. I used the old white vinegar and steel wool ebonizing finish trick, and it really did a great job turning it basically a matte black, like a really, really deep grayish brown that, comes off black for the most part. And now it's time for the finish of the top. So I'm taping off the leather so this wipe-on poly doesn't get, into it and soak in and harden up. That would be weird. I went with a semi-gloss wipe-on poly because I wanted a natural feel with a little bit of a sheen. And I really wanted this gorgeous top of the table to shine as the main focus of the piece. And now this is an ASMR video. Ooh, tingles. I sanded the leather earlier and it feels a little more like suede, so I'm going to burnish it down with a combination of mineral oil and beeswax to make it feel more like an old leather jacket than a suede pair of shoes. The oil and wax finish also repels moisture and protects the leather from, dining room table stuff. And it's the beauty shop portion of the video. Just look at this thing. It came out amazing. I couldn't be happier. It went in this kick-ass cabin up in the Catskills. It fit right into their decor. The client was happy. I got paid. I was happy. Nothing broke on the way there. And, yeah. There it is. Reclaimed modern table with a leather inlay. So if you like this project, I got more. Subscribe to my channel. I make good stuff. Follow me on Instagram. You're going to like it. And you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, hey, I like this, and it's going to fill that void in your soul that you've been stuffing with cheeseburgers and chili fries for the last 25 years. And I'll see you there. Later, makers.